The message came through the quantum relay network at exactly 1430 Universal Standard Time. Every major species in the local galactic sector received it. The transmission was clear, direct, and carried the official seal of the Terran Defense. Council Ambassador Minji stood at the center of the communication chamber on Earth's orbital station. Her dark eyes were steady as she looked into the recording device. Behind her, the blue marble of Earth rotated slowly, its surface dotted with the lights of human cities. "This is Ambassador Minji of the Terran Defense Council," she began, her voice calm but firm. "We are sending this message to all known civilizations in our galactic region. Effective immediately, a 50-light-year radius around the Sol system is declared a human exclusion zone. Any unauthorized vessel entering this space will be considered an act of war against humanity. This is your only warning." The message was simple. There were no threats of what would happen to those who ignored it. There were no detailed explanations of human military capabilities, just a clear boundary and a promise of consequences. On the bridge of the Veltari flagship Crimson Dominion, Admiral Rio watched the human transmission with barely hidden amusement. The Veltari had been expanding their empire for over 300 years. They had conquered 17 star systems and absorbed dozens of smaller species into their confederation. To them, humans were just another young race that had recently discovered faster-than-light travel. 50 light years? Rio said to his officers, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had never lost a battle. "These humans think they can claim that much space with what? A few dozen ships and some orbital platforms?" Captain Do-Yun, commander of the dreadnought, nodded in agreement. "Our intelligence reports show they have maybe 200 vessels total. Most of them are cargo ships and civilian transports. They cannot possibly defend such a large area." The Veltari military had been watching human expansion for the past 20 years. Earth's children had spread to 12 systems, building colonies and trade routes with impressive speed. But their military seemed small compared to other spacefaring civilizations. The humans appeared to focus more on exploration and trade than on building warships. "Shall we test their resolve?" Do-Hyun asked, his scaled fingers drumming against his command chair. The Veltari were reptilian beings, evolved from predators on a harsh world. They understood only strength and viewed diplomacy as weakness. "Admiral," Rio considered the question. The Veltari High Command had been planning to expand into this region of space anyway. The human colonies were rich in rare minerals and occupied strategic positions along major trade routes. Taking them would strengthen the Veltari Empire and eliminate a potential future rival. "Prepare a reconnaissance fleet," Rio ordered. 12 ships. Make it look like a standard patrol, but I want our best weapons and shields ready. If the humans want to play at being a galactic power, we will teach them what real strength looks like." 2 days later, Captain Do-Yun led his small fleet toward the edge of human space. His force consisted of 1 heavy cruiser, 4 destroyers, 6 frigates, and his own dreadnought. It was more than enough firepower to handle any human patrol they might encounter. The Veltari ships moved in tight formation through hyperspace. Their goal was to penetrate human territory near the outer colonies, scan their defenses, and identify weak points for a larger invasion force. If the humans tried to stop them, even better. A quick victory would demonstrate Veltari superiority and make the eventual conquest much easier. "Approaching the human boundary," reported the navigation officer as they dropped out of hyperspace. "Sensors show 3 human vessels approximately 2 million kilometers ahead, near the orbit of the planet they call Neptune." Do-Hyun studied the tactical display, 3 ships against 12. The humans were either very brave or very stupid. What class of vessels? Unknown configuration. They appear to be medium-sized, possibly patrol craft or escort vessels. Energy signatures are unusual. The captain frowned at that last comment but dismissed it. Human technology was still primitive compared to Veltari science. Whatever strange readings they were getting probably came from crude human power systems or poorly shielded engines. "Open a channel to the human ships," Do-hyun ordered. He wanted to give them a chance to withdraw. The Veltari were not needlessly cruel, and destroying a small patrol would provide little useful information. The main screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of the lead human vessel. A young human male in a dark blue uniform looked back at them. The name tag on his chest read, Commander Hyunwoo. Behind him, the bridge was clean and well organized, but seemed smaller than a Veltari ship of similar size. "This is Captain Do-hyun of the Veltari Confederation," he began in the common galactic trade language. "You are operating in space that will soon come under our protection. Withdraw immediately and no harm will come to your vessels. Commander." Hyunwoo listened without expression. When Do-hyun finished speaking, the human was quiet for several seconds. Finally, he leaned forward slightly. "This is Commander Hyunwoo of the Terran vessel Soul's Pride. You have entered human territory without permission. Turn around and leave immediately. This is your final warning." Do-hyun felt his anger rise. This human was talking to him as if the positions were reversed, as if 3 small ships could threaten a Veltari battle group. "You are outgunned 12-3, Do-hyun said, his voice growing cold. "Your ships are smaller than our escorts. Do not force us to demonstrate the difference between our capabilities and yours." Hyunwoo's expression did not change. "You have been warned. What happens next is your choice." The transmission ended. Captain Do-hyun stared at the blank screen for a moment, then turned to his weapons officer. "Target the lead human vessel. Minimal power. I want to disable them, not destroy them. Perhaps when they see how outmatched they are, the other 2 will be more reasonable." "Weapons locked on target," the officer reported. "Fire." The Veltari heavy cruiser fired a single plasma bolt, carefully calibrated to overwhelm the human ship's shields without causing fatal damage. It was a standard intimidation tactic that usually ended conflicts before they really began. The bolt struck the human ship dead center. For a moment, Do-hyun expected to see their shields collapse and their power systems go dark. Instead, something impossible happened. The human ship shimmered slightly, and the plasma bolt passed through it completely, striking an asteroid several thousand kilometers behind them. The asteroid vaporized instantly. "What just happened?" Do-hyun demanded. "Unknown, sir. Our sensors show the bolt should have hit them directly, but there was no impact, no energy discharge, no shield interaction. It was as if they were not there." Before anyone could offer an explanation, the human ships began to move. They did not retreat or take defensive positions. Instead, they spread out and accelerated directly toward the Veltari formation. "Impossible," whispered the tactical officer. "They are charging us. 3 ships against 12. Do-hyun felt the first stirring of uncertainty. This was not how inferior forces were supposed to behave. But he pushed the feeling aside. Whatever trick the humans had used to avoid his warning, shot. It would not work against a full attack. "All ships, open fire. Full power. Destroy those vessels." 12 Veltari warships unleashed their weapons at the same time. The space between the 2 forces lit up with energy beams, plasma bolts, and missile trails. It was enough firepower to level a small city. But as the weapons reached the human ships, the same thing happened again. The attacks passed through them, as if they were ghosts. Not one shot connected, and then the humans fired back. Commander Hyunwoo watched the alien weapons fire streak toward his ship. On the tactical display, 12 different energy signatures painted bright lines across the darkness of space. Any one of those shots could have destroyed a normal vessel. All of them together could have wiped out a small fleet. "Phase shift holding steady," reported Chief Engineer Woo Sung from his station. "All weapons passing through our displaced position." Hyunwoo nodded. The aliens were about to learn that humans had spent the last 50 years preparing for exactly this moment. The 3 ships that appeared to be simple patrol vessels were actually mobile weapons platforms equipped with humanity's most advanced technology. "Communications! Send one final warning," Hyunwoo ordered. Communications Officer Nari activated the broadcast system. "Veltari vessels, you have fired on human ships in human territory. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." Captain Do-Yoon's response came quickly, filled with anger and confusion. "What trickery is this? How are you avoiding our weapons?" "No trickery," Hyunwoo replied calmly. "Just better technology. You have 10 seconds to begin your withdrawal." Through the main display, he could see the alien ships regrouping. Their formation was tight and professional. These were experienced warriors who had probably won many battles against other species, but they had never fought humans before. "Time's up," Hyunwoo said quietly. "Woo Sung, bring us back into normal space. All ships, activate quantum torpedo systems. Let's show them what happens when someone ignores our warnings." The 3 human ships suddenly snapped back into visible reality. Where they had been ghost-like and untouchable moments before, they now appeared solid and real, but they were not in the same positions the aliens expected. During the phase shift, the human ships had moved. Seoul's Pride was now directly above, the alien formation. The other 2 vessels, Busan's Shadow and Incheon's Fury, had positioned themselves on the flanks. The Veltari fleet was surrounded. "Quantum torpedoes armed and ready," reported Tactical Officer Soman. "Targets locked. Fire!" Hyunwoo ordered. The quantum torpedoes were not like normal missiles. They did not streak through space in bright trails that could be tracked and intercepted. Instead, they slipped through subspace, traveling in a dimension that existed parallel to normal reality. They would rematerialize inside the alien ships, bypassing shields and armor completely. The first torpedo appeared in the engine room of a Veltari destroyer. The ship simply ceased to exist, replaced by an expanding cloud of superheated gas and metal fragments. The second torpedo materialized in the weapons bay of another destroyer. The explosion tore the vessel in half. 2 ships gone in the first 3 seconds of actual combat. "Impossible!" Captain Do-Yoon shouted over the communications channel. "No! Weapon can penetrate our shields without triggering our defensive systems." "Apparently, you were wrong about that," Hyunwoo replied. "Surrender now, and we will allow your surviving ships to leave." Instead of surrendering, the remaining Veltari vessels opened fire again. This time, they concentrated all their weapons on a single human ship, hoping to overwhelm whatever defensive system was protecting them. The beams and missiles struck Incheon's Fury with devastating force. For a moment, the human ship was hidden in a ball of explosive energy. When the light faded, the ship was still there, completely undamaged. "Adaptive armor holding," came the calm voice of Incheon's Fury's captain over the fleet channel. "Absorbed. Energy being redirected to our weapon systems. Thank you for the power boost." The Veltari had just learned about humanity's second surprise. Human ships did not just avoid attacks or absorb them. They could actually use enemy weapons fire to strengthen their own capabilities. More quantum torpedoes launched from the human vessels. A Veltari frigate disappeared, then another. The aliens tried to scatter, but found that they could not move freely. Something was blocking their escape routes. Soman, activate the minefield, Hyunwoo ordered. Space around the battle suddenly filled with new energy signatures. Quantum mines, invisible until activated, materialized in a sphere around the Veltari fleet. The aliens had been so focused on the 3 human ships that they had not noticed the trap being set around them. "We are surrounded," reported Do-hyun's tactical officer, his voice tight with fear. "The mines are blocking all escape vectors. If we try to jump to hyperspace, we will hit them." Hyunwoo opened the channel again. "Captain Do-hyun, you have a choice. Order your remaining ships to power down their weapons and surrender, or watch them all be destroyed. You have 30 seconds to decide." On the Veltari flagship, chaos filled the bridge. Officers shouted reports and recommendations. Some wanted to fight to the death. Others argued for immediate surrender. Captain Do-hyun stared at his tactical display, watching his proud fleet being picked apart by 3 human ships. "How many vessels do we have left?" he asked quietly. "8, sir." "We have lost 4 ships in less than 5 minutes. Do-hyun closed his eyes. In 300 years of expansion, the Veltari had never faced anything like this. Their intelligence reports had been completely wrong. These humans were not a weak species with primitive technology. They were something far more dangerous, but pride ran deep in the Veltari military tradition. Surrender was not an option they had ever considered. "All ships, emergency jump to hyperspace," Do-hyun ordered. "Accept the mine damage. We must escape and report what we have seen." "Sir, the mines will execute the order." 6 Veltari ships tried to jump to hyperspace at the same time. The quantum mines detected their attempt and detonated. 4 more ships were destroyed instantly, their hulls torn apart by weapons that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Only Captain Do-hyun's flagship and 1 escort frigate managed to break through the minefield. Their ships were badly damaged with hull breaches and failing power systems, but they were alive. As the 2 surviving Veltari vessels limped away into hyperspace, Commander Hyunwoo turned to his crew. "Damage report," he said. "No damage to any human vessel," Woo-sung reported. "All systems operating at full capacity, ammunition reserves at 85%. Hyunwoo nodded. The engagement had gone exactly as planned. The humans had demonstrated their capabilities without revealing all their secrets. The surviving aliens would carry word back to their people about what they had encountered. "Signal Earth Command," he ordered. "Message. First contact with Veltari Confederation complete. Warning ignored. Response delivered. 2 enemy vessels escaped to carry intelligence back to their fleet. Request instructions for next phase." Communications Officer Nari sent the IU message through quantum relay. The response came back within minutes. "Earth Command to Soul's Pride. Well done. Maintain position and continue monitoring. Operation Pursuit is authorized. You know what to do." Hyunwoo smiled. The aliens thought they were retreating to safety. They had no idea that their escape had been carefully planned. The humans wanted survivors to return home because those survivors would carry a message that words alone could never deliver. "Woo-sung, prepare the long-range tracking systems," he ordered. "We're going to follow our new friends home. They're about to learn that running away from humans is much harder than they think." The 3 human ships activated their advanced sensors and began tracking the fleeing Veltari vessels. The aliens had started something they could not finish. Now it was humanity's turn to take the initiative. In space, there was nowhere to hide from an enemy that could see across dimensions and strike through subspace. The Veltari were about to discover that attacking humanity carried consequences that extended far beyond their home system. The hunt was about to begin. General Taman stood in the command center beneath the mountains of Colorado, watching the real-time feed from the battle near Neptune. The massive screens showed the destruction of the Veltari fleet in perfect detail. Every explosion, every failed escape attempt, every moment of alien confusion was recorded and analyzed. "Textbook execution," he said to his staff officers. "Our people performed exactly as trained. The enemy learned just enough to be dangerous to themselves, but not enough to counter our capabilities." Colonel Jinwook, his chief intelligence officer, stepped forward with a data pad. "Sir, the 2 surviving alien vessels are heading back toward their home territory. Their course suggests they will reach the main Veltari fleet within 72 hours. "Good," Taman replied. "That gives us time to implement Phase 2. Signal Captain G1. Operation Pursuit is now active." 3 star systems away, Captain G1 received the authorization code aboard her stealth frigate Busan's Shadow. She was one of humanity's most experienced deep space reconnaissance officers, trained in tactics that most civilizations had never imagined. "All hands, this is the captain," she announced over the ship's communication system. "We have been authorized for long-range pursuit and intelligence gathering. Our mission is to follow the surviving alien ships back to their fleet and gather detailed information on their military capabilities." Busan's Shadow was not like the patrol vessels that had engaged the Veltari. It was designed for a different kind of warfare. The ship could remain invisible to almost any sensor system while traveling at speeds that made traditional pursuit impossible. "Navigator Yesung, plot an intercept course for the fleeing alien vessels," Jiwan ordered. "Sensor Specialist Mira, I want full passive scanning of everything we encounter. Map their technology, their defensive positions, their communication methods. Everything." The stealth frigate slipped into hyperspace, following the energy trail left by the damaged Veltari ships. While the aliens limped home at reduced speed, the human vessel moved like a ghost through space, collecting information without being detected. Back on Earth, Director Kyung-ho worked in the underground laboratories of the Terra Research Institute. For 50 years, he had been developing weapons and defensive systems that would give humanity an advantage against any alien threat. Now those preparations were about to be tested on a galactic scale. "Status report on the Guardian network," he asked his chief engineer. "Deployment is ahead of schedule," came the reply. "We now have active platforms in 47 star systems. Each platform is fully operational and ready for autonomous defense protocols." Kyung-ho nodded with satisfaction. What other species saw as human exploration and colonization was actually the careful placement of a defensive network that spanned dozens of light years. Every human colony, every research station, every trading post was protected by weapons, platforms that could manufacture additional defenses from local materials. And the special packages for Operation Pursuit? "Ready for deployment, sir. Captain Jiwan's team can place them at any target location within minutes of arrival." Meanwhile, the 2 surviving Veltari ships continued their desperate journey home. Captain Do-yun sat in his damaged command chair, staring at reports of system failures throughout his flagship. Half his weapons were offline. Life support was running on backup power. Worst of all, his crew was demoralized and confused. "Captain," his communications officer reported, "we are receiving urgent messages from High Command. They want a full report on our encounter with the humans. Do-hyun hesitated. How could he explain what had happened? How could he tell his superiors that 3 human ships had destroyed 10 Veltari vessels without taking any damage? Who would believe that human weapons could pass through solid matter and that human ships could become untouchable at will? Tell them we encountered unexpected resistance, he said finally. We will provide a full briefing upon our return. What Captain Do-hyun did not know was that his every communication was being intercepted and decoded by the human ship following them. Sensor specialist Mira had broken their encryption within hours of beginning pursuit. Captain, she reported to Ji-won, I'm reading massive fleet movements in the target system. The aliens are gathering their main battle force. Estimate over 200 vessels of various classes. Captain Ji-won studied the sensor data. The Veltari were preparing for a full-scale invasion of human space. They had not learned the lesson that the first battle was meant to teach. Instead, they were escalating the conflict. Navigator Yasung, how long until we reach their staging area? 6 hours at current speed, Captain. Good. That gives us time to prepare our own surprise for them. Mira, start looking for their shipyards, fuel depots, and command facilities. If they want to bring their entire fleet against us, we need to know everything about their logistics. The human pursuit continued in silence. Busan's shadow followed the alien ships through 3 star systems, mapping every military installation, every defensive position, every supply line. The humans were not just gathering intelligence, they were preparing to turn the Veltari's own territory against them. When they finally reached the alien staging area, Captain Ji-won was amazed by what she saw. The Veltari had assembled the largest fleet in their history. Massive dreadnoughts floated alongside smaller cruisers and destroyers. Troop transports and supply vessels filled the outer edges of the formation. Over 300 ships, Navigator Yesung whispered. They're planning to invade our entire sector. Then we need to give them something to think about, Ji-won replied. Mira, identify their most important vessels. I want to know which ships carry their senior commanders and their most advanced weapons. For the next 12 hours, the human stealth ship studied the enemy fleet. They learned the aliens' patrol patterns, their communication codes, their supply schedules. Most importantly, they identified weaknesses in their formation and defensive systems. Captain, Sensor Specialist Mira reported, I've located their primary command ship and 3 super dreadnoughts that appear to be their most powerful vessels. They're all docked at a massive space station for final preparations. Ji-won smiled. Perfect. Prepare the special packages for deployment. We're going to leave them a little farewell gift. The special packages were humanity's latest development in stealth warfare. Each one was a quantum explosive device no larger than a briefcase. They could be placed anywhere and would remain undetectable until activated. When they exploded, they would create small tears in subspace that could cripple even the largest warships. Under cover of their advanced stealth systems, 3 human operatives left Busan's shadow and infiltrated the alien space station. They moved through the facility like ghosts, placing the explosive packages in critical locations throughout the structure and on the docked ships. Packages placed, reported the team leader. Timers set for 6 hours after our departure. Excellent work, Captain Ji-won replied. Return to the ship. It's time to head home and report what we've learned. As Busan's shadow slipped away from the alien fleet, Admiral Sunho back on Earth was reviewing the intelligence data transmitted by Captain Ji-won's team. The scope of the Veltari threat was larger than anyone had expected. They're not just planning to test our defenses, he told General Taman. They want to conquer our entire region of space. This is a war of extermination. Then we'll give them a war they'll never forget, Taman replied. Signal all Guardian platforms. Full activation, maximum production priority, and send word to Captain Jiwan. Tell her the gloves are coming off. 6 hours later, the Veltari space station erupted in a series of explosions that could be seen from neighboring star systems. 3 super dreadnoughts and the fleet command ship were completely destroyed. The massive station itself broke apart, taking dozens of smaller vessels with it. Captain Do Yun, who had just finished his briefing with the High Command, watched, in horror as humanity's message was delivered with devastating precision. The humans had followed them home. They had infiltrated the most secure military facility in Veltari space, and they had demonstrated that nowhere was safe from human retaliation. The war was no longer about human expansion or alien conquest. It had become a test of survival, and the humans had just proven they were willing to fight it on any terms necessary. The emergency session of the Veltari High Command took place in the deepest bunker of their homeworld. Supreme Admiral Kale, a veteran of dozens of conquest campaigns, sat at the head of the War Council table. His scaled face showed the strain of the past few days as reports of human capabilities continued to arrive. "Explain to me," he said in a voice that could freeze plasma, "how a minor species with barely 2 centuries of spaceflight just destroyed our most advanced space station and 3 of our best ships." Captain Do Yun stood at attention, his uniform still bearing scorch marks from the battle damage his ship had sustained. "Sir, our intelligence was completely wrong. The humans possess technology far beyond what we estimated. Their weapons can strike through subspace. Their ships can phase out of normal reality, and they have the ability to remain completely undetected while gathering intelligence deep in our territory." "Impossible," Admiral Kale snapped. "Our sensor technology is the most advanced in this sector. Nothing can hide from our detection grids." "With respect, sir," Do Hyun replied, "they just did. They followed my ships for 3 days, mapped our entire fleet, infiltrated our most secure facility, and left explosive devices that our best security systems never detected." The room fell silent. Around the table, the greatest military minds of the Veltari Confederation struggled to accept what they were hearing. In 3 centuries of expansion, they had never encountered anything like this. "What are your recommendations?" Admiral Kale asked finally. General Vex, the head of fleet operations, leaned forward. "We proceed with the invasion as planned, but with modifications. We attack with our full force immediately, before they can prepare more surprises. Overwhelming numbers will overcome any technological advantage." "No," said Intelligence Director Tarn. "We should negotiate. These humans are clearly more advanced than we thought. Perhaps we can find a peaceful solution that benefits both species." Admiral Kale listened to the debate with growing frustration. Half his officers wanted to attack immediately. The other half wanted to retreat and hope the humans would be satisfied with their demonstration of power. "We are the Veltari," he said finally. "We do not negotiate with species we intended to conquer. We do not retreat from inferior numbers. We will launch the invasion fleet immediately and crush these humans before they can cause more damage." The decision was made. Within hours, the largest fleet in Veltari history began moving toward human space. Over 250 ships, carrying enough firepower to destroy entire star systems. On Earth, President Inha received the intelligence reports in her secure office beneath the Capitol. The data from Captain Jiwan's mission painted a clear picture of alien intentions. This was not a limited conflict or a territorial dispute. The Veltari wanted to wipe humanity from the galaxy. "How long before their fleet reaches our territory?" she asked General Taman. 60 hours at their current speed, he replied. They're coming straight at us with everything they have. President Inha walked to the window that looked out over the city. Millions of people went about their daily lives, unaware that an alien army was heading toward Earth with the intention of enslaving or destroying them all. Then it's time to show them what humanity is really capable of, she said. Activate the hidden network. Full deployment, all systems. Across human space, installations that had appeared to be research stations, communication relays, and mining platforms suddenly revealed their true nature. The Guardian network that Director Kyung-ho had spent decades building came online all at once. Colonel Jin-wook coordinated the activation from his command center. Platform Alpha 7 reporting full operational status. Platform Beta 12 online and manufacturing additional units. Platform Gamma 4 has begun construction of new defensive satellites. How many platforms do we have active? General Taman asked. Initial count shows 437 primary platforms, with over 2,000 secondary installations, Jin-wook replied. Each primary platform can manufacture approximately 50 defensive units per hour using local materials. The scale of humanity's preparation became clear as more reports arrived. What other species had assumed was normal, colonial expansion had actually been the deployment of a defensive network that spanned dozens of star systems. Every asteroid mining operation had been cover for weapons platform construction. Every scientific research station had been equipped with manufacturing facilities that could produce military hardware. Chief Scientist Bora explained the system to the military command. Each platform operates independently but can coordinate. With others through quantum communication, they can adapt their production based on local threats and available materials. If the aliens destroy some platforms, the others will automatically increase production to compensate. What about the special capabilities? President Inha asked. Every platform is equipped with the same quantum torpedo technology that our patrol ships used against the first Veltari attack, Bora replied. But the platforms can also produce quantum mines, phase shift barriers, and adaptive armor systems. The aliens aren't just facing our military, they're facing an entire region of space that has been weaponized. Meanwhile, the Veltari invasion fleet continued its approach toward human territory. Admiral Kale had divided his forces into 3 groups. The main battle fleet would attack Earth directly. The second group would strike at human colonies to prevent reinforcements. The third group would secure the outer systems to cut off any escape routes. Intelligence reports confirm minimal human defensive activity, reported his tactical officer. We detect only standard patrol vessels and orbital platforms around their colonies, nothing that could threaten a force of our size. Admiral Kale nodded with satisfaction. The humans had demonstrated some advanced technology, but they clearly did not have the industrial capacity to build a fleet large enough to match Veltari numbers. This would be a standard conquest operation, just on a larger scale than usual. What the Veltari sensors could not detect were the thousands of weapons platforms that remained hidden throughout human space. The Guardian network had been designed specifically to avoid detection by conventional sensors. Each platform appeared to be nothing more than space debris or natural asteroids until the moment it activated. Captain Ji-won, now commanding a small fleet of stealth vessels, watched the alien approach from a concealed position. Her ships were spread throughout the outer system, ready to coordinate the initial response. Enemy fleet entering the outer detection grid, reported Navigator Ye-sung. They're maintaining tight formation and heading directly for Earth. Signal all Guardian platforms, Ji-won ordered. Prepare for activation on my command. Let them get deep into our territory before we spring the trap. The Veltari fleet crossed into human space without opposition. Their sensors showed clear space ahead, with only a few scattered human vessels in the distance. Admiral Kale smiled as his ships penetrated deeper into the enemy's territory. No resistance, he told his officers. The humans are either too weak to defend themselves, or they are planning some kind of ambush. Either way, we will crush them. Unknown to the aliens, they were flying directly into the most sophisticated defensive network ever created. Thousands of hidden weapons platforms tracked their movement while manufacturing additional defensive units from asteroids and space debris. The humans were not just waiting for the attack. They were preparing to turn the entire solar system into a weapon. "Admiral," reported Captain Jiwan to the Earth Command, "the enemy is now within the primary engagement zone. All platforms report ready status. Manufacturing facilities are producing additional units at maximum capacity." General Taman looked at the tactical display that showed the true scope of the Guardian network. Red dots marked each weapons platform. Blue indicators showed manufacturing facilities. Green symbols represented the newly produced defensive units. "Signal all units," he ordered. "Let them see what happens when someone threatens humanity's home." The trap was about to be sprung. Admiral Dongyun stood in the command center orbiting Jupiter, watching as the Veltari invasion fleet approached the inner solar system. The massive tactical display showed over 200 alien ships spread across a formation that stretched for millions of kilometers. It was the largest enemy force humanity had ever faced. "Distance to lead elements?" he asked his tactical officer. 40 million kilometers and closing," came the reply. "They will reach the outer platform ring in approximately 6 hours at current speed." Dongyun nodded calmly. The aliens had no idea what they were flying into. For the past 6 hours, they had been traveling through space that looked empty, but was actually filled with thousands of weapons platforms. Each platform had been tracking the enemy fleet while remaining completely invisible to their sensors. "Signal from Captain Yuna's fighter squadron," reported the communications officer. "They are in position and ready for hit-and-run attacks." "Good," Dongyun replied. "Tell her to stay hidden until the platforms activate. We want the aliens to think they're only facing static defenses." Captain Yuna led the most experienced fighter pilots in the human fleet. Her squadron was spread throughout the asteroid belt, using the rocks as cover while they waited for the battle to begin. Each fighter was equipped with the same quantum torpedo technology that had proven so effective against the first Veltari attack. "All pilots, this is Yuna," she transmitted on the squadron frequency. "Remember, we use the platforms as mobile cover. Hit-and-run tactics only. Don't get caught in a straight fight with their heavy ships." The fighters were small and fast, designed to take advantage of the chaos that would erupt when the Guardian network activated. While the platforms engaged the main alien fleet, the fighters would strike at command ships and support vessels. Aboard the Veltari flagship, Admiral Kyle studied the tactical reports with growing confidence. His fleet had penetrated deep into human territory without encountering any significant resistance. A few human patrol ships had been detected at long range, but they had withdrawn rather than engage. "Status of human defensive positions?" he asked. "Minimal, sir," replied his intelligence officer. "We detect standard orbital platforms around their colonies and some patrol activity near the planet they call Earth. Nothing that could threaten our main force." "Excellent. Signal the fleet. We will begin bombardment of their outer colonies in 4 hours. That should draw out any hidden forces they might have." What Admiral Kale did not realize was that every one of his communications was being intercepted by the Guardian Network. The platforms were not just weapons. They were also sophisticated intelligence-gathering systems that had been monitoring alien transmissions since the moment they entered human space. Engineering Officer Hagen monitored the network status from the command station. All primary platforms report full operational status, she announced. Manufacturing facilities have produced an additional 3,000 defensive units in the past 6 hours. Production rate is increasing as more raw materials become available. Admiral Donghyun was amazed by the efficiency of the system. The Guardian Network was using asteroids, space debris, and even disabled spacecraft as raw materials to build new weapons platforms. Every piece of matter in the solar system was becoming part of humanity's defense. "How many total defensive units do we have now?" he asked. "Current count is over 8,000 individual platforms," Hagen replied. "Each one is armed with quantum torpedoes, phase shift technology, and adaptive armor systems. The network is also producing mobile units that can reposition themselves during combat." The scope of humanity's preparation was staggering. What had appeared to be a normal solar system with scattered human colonies was actually a fortress that had been 50 years in the making. Every asteroid had been surveyed and prepared for weapons platform construction. Every piece of space debris had been analyzed for its potential military value. Communications specialist Jae-hyun intercepted another alien transmission. "Admiral, the enemy is beginning to spread their formation. They're preparing to attack multiple targets simultaneously." "Let them," Donghyun replied. "The more they spread out, the easier it will be for the platforms to engage them individually." The Veltari fleet had indeed begun to separate into smaller groups. Admiral Kale's plan was to attack human colonies throughout the system, forcing the defenders to split their forces. It was a standard tactic that had worked well against other species. What he did not understand was that the Guardian Network operated differently from normal military forces. Each platform was autonomous and could engage any target within range. Spreading the alien fleet out would not reduce the effectiveness of the human defense. It would actually make it easier for the platforms to target individual ships. "Enemy fleet entering the activation zone," reported Captain Yuna from her fighter. "I can see their lead elements approaching the outer platform ring." Admiral Donghyun took a deep breath. 50 years of preparation were about to be tested in the next few hours. "Signal all platforms. Prepare for full activation. Wait for my command." The Guardian Network held its fire as the alien ships moved deeper into the solar system. To the Veltari, space appeared empty except for a few distant asteroids and the occasional piece of space debris. Their sensors detected no threats, no hidden weapons, no signs of advanced defensive systems. 2 hours to the first colony target, reported the Veltari tactical officer. "All ships report ready for bombardment operations." Admiral Kale smiled. The humans had shown some advanced technology in their earlier encounters, but they clearly lacked the industrial capacity to defend such a large area. This would be a quick victory that would demonstrate Veltari superiority to the entire galaxy. "Signal the fleet," he ordered. "Begin attack runs on the outer colonies. Show these humans what happens when they challenge the Confederation." The first Veltari ships began their attack approach toward a human mining colony near the asteroid belt. Their weapons powered up, preparing to destroy the civilian installations and demonstrate the price of resistance. That was when Admiral Donghyun gave the order that changed everything. "All Guardian platforms, activate now. Full defensive protocol. Protect all human assets." Space erupted with light and energy as 8,000 weapons platforms revealed themselves simultaneously. What had appeared to be empty void suddenly filled with defensive installations. Asteroids split open to reveal massive weapons batteries. Space debris reconfigured itself into mobile attack platforms. Even small pieces of cosmic dust revealed themselves as miniaturized defensive units. Thaikar. Veltari fleet found itself surrounded by a defensive network that spanned the entire solar system. Every direction they looked showed human weapons platforms activating and locking onto their ships. "Impossible!" Admiral Kale shouted as his tactical display filled with thousands of new contacts. Where did they all come from? His sensors had been completely fooled. The humans had not just hidden a few weapons platforms, they had converted the entire solar system into a fortress without anyone detecting it. The first quantum torpedoes began launching from the platforms. Unlike the limited engagement at Neptune, this was total warfare on a scale that the galaxy had never seen. Thousands of weapons fired simultaneously, creating a storm of destruction that lit up space like a new star. Veltari ships began exploding as the quantum torpedoes materialized inside their hulls. Their shields and armor were useless against weapons that struck from subspace. Ship after ship disappeared in brilliant flashes of light. "All ships! Emergency evasive maneuvers!" Admiral Kale ordered. "Try to break through the outer defensive ring." But there was no outer ring to break through. The Guardian network surrounded them completely. As the aliens tried to retreat, they discovered that new platforms were appearing behind them, cutting off their escape routes. Captain Yuna led her fighters into the chaos, using the defensive platforms as cover while she struck at alien command ships. "This is Yuna to all fighters. The platforms are providing perfect cover fire. Use it to get close to their heavy ships." The human fighters darted between the weapons platforms like deadly insects, striking at the aliens and then disappearing back into the defensive network. The Veltari found themselves fighting an enemy that was everywhere and nowhere at the same time. Admiral Dongyun watched the battle unfold with grim satisfaction. The aliens had learned too late that attacking humanity meant facing not just the human military, but an entire solar system that had been weaponized against invaders. The Guardian network was just getting started. Admiral Dongyun opened a channel to the trapped Veltari fleet, his voice carrying across space to every alien ship in the system. The message was broadcast on all frequencies, ensuring that every member of the invasion force would hear humanity's response to their aggression. "This is Admiral Dongyun of the Terran Defense Force," he began, his words calm but filled with deadly purpose. "You were warned to stay out of human territory. You chose to ignore that warning. You brought a fleet to destroy our homes and enslave our people. Now you will serve as an example to any other species considering similar actions." On the bridge of the Veltari flagship, Admiral Kyle stared at the human transmission with growing horror. Around his ship, the battle raged with an intensity that defied belief. Weapons platforms appeared and disappeared like phantoms, striking at his fleet with devastating precision. "Damage report," he ordered, his voice tight with suppressed panic. "We have lost over 60 ships in the first hour of combat," his tactical officer reported. "The enemy weapons are bypassing our shields completely. Our formations are breaking apart." Kale looked at his tactical display. Red indicators marked the positions of destroyed Veltari vessels. There were so many that they created a crimson cloud on the screen. In 3 centuries of warfare, his people had never suffered losses on this scale. "How many functional ships remain?" 147, sir, but many of those are damaged and losing power. Less than 60% of his invasion force remained operational, and the human defensive network showed no signs of weakening. If anything, more weapons platforms seemed to be appearing as the battle continued. Captain Sungho commanded the human battlecruiser Daegu's Hammer, one of the few traditional warships in the human fleet. While the Guardian platforms engaged the main alien force, his ship intercepted a group of Veltari vessels trying to break through the defensive perimeter near Saturn. "Target the lead dreadnought," he ordered his weapons officer. "Full power. Quantum torpedo spread." Weapons Officer Arium activated the battlecruiser's primary armament. Unlike the platform-mounted weapons, the ship-based systems were designed for maximum psychological impact as well as physical destruction. "Firing planet killer. Torpedoes," she announced. The weapons that launched from Daegu's Hammer were not just ship killers. They were designed to crack the crust of entire worlds. When they struck the Veltari dreadnought, the massive alien vessel simply ceased to exist. The explosion was so violent that it created a brief artificial star that could be seen from neighboring star systems. The message was clear to every surviving alien in the fleet. Humans did not just possess defensive weapons. They carried the firepower to end entire civilizations. Admiral Kale watched the destruction of one of his most powerful ships and felt something he had never experienced before in combat: complete despair. The humans were not just defending their territory. They were demonstrating that they possessed the capability to destroy worlds. "Signal all ships," he transmitted on the fleet frequency. "We surrender. Repeat, the Veltari Confederation surrenders unconditionally." The transmission reached Admiral Dong Yun within seconds. He considered the alien surrender offer while watching the tactical display. The Guardian network had reduced the invasion force to less than half its original strength. The aliens were trapped with no possibility of escape. But surrender was not enough. "Admiral Kale," Dong Yun replied, his voice broadcasting to every ship in both fleets. "Your surrender is noted but insufficient. You came here with the intention of destroying our civilization. Simple withdrawal is no longer an acceptable outcome." President Inha's voice joined the transmission from Earth. "The Veltari Confederation will provide complete intelligence on any other species planning to threaten human space. You will also serve as messengers to spread word throughout the galaxy about the consequences of challenging humanity." "What are your terms?" Admiral Kale asked, his voice betraying the desperation he felt. General Taman's response came from the command bunker on Earth. "You will provide detailed star charts of all Veltari territory and allied space. You will give us complete technical specifications for your weapons and defensive systems. You will identify every species in your region that poses a potential threat to human expansion." The demands were comprehensive and humiliating. The Veltari would be required to expose their entire military structure to human analysis. But Admiral Kale realized he had no choice. His fleet was trapped and outgunned. Refusal would mean the complete destruction of every ship under his command. We accept your terms," he transmitted finally. "Excellent," Admiral Dong Yun replied. "But there is one more condition. You have 6 hours to comply with all our demands. If you fail to meet this deadline, a human strike force currently en route to your home system will proceed with the destruction of your capital world." Admiral Kyle's blood turned to ice. "What strike force? How do you have ships at our homeworld?" Admiral Mion's voice joined the transmission from deep space. "This is Admiral Mion commanding Task Force Retribution. We are currently positioned at the edge of your home system with enough firepower to turn your planet into an asteroid field. Your compliance with human demands will determine whether your species survives the next 6 hours." The psychological impact of this revelation was devastating. While the Veltari had been preparing their invasion of human space, the humans had been preparing their own strike against the alien homeworld. The hunters had become the hunted. "How is this possible?" Admiral Kale whispered. "You forget," Admiral Donghyun explained. "We have been tracking your movements for weeks. Did you think we would simply wait for you to attack us? Humanity does not fight defensively. We eliminate threats at their source." Admiral Mion's task force consisted of 12 human vessels, each one equipped with the same advanced technology that had proven so effective against the invasion fleet. But more importantly, they carried weapons designed specifically to destroy planetary targets. "Your capital world has a population of approximately 4 billion, Admiral Mion transmitted. "Our weapons can end all of that in less than 10 minutes. Choose carefully how you respond to our demands." The threat was not idle. Human intelligence had identified the location of every major Veltari population center. The strike force carried enough quantum torpedoes to crack the planet's crust and boil away its atmosphere. Admiral Kale looked around his bridge at his surviving officers. They were the greatest military minds of his species, veterans of dozens of successful conquests. Now they sat in silence, faced with a choice between humiliation and extinction. "Signal all ships," he ordered finally. "Begin transmitting all requested intelligence to the human fleet. Full compliance with their demands." "Sir?" his communications officer asked quietly. "What about our pride? Our honor as warriors?" Kyle stared at the tactical display showing the human weapons platform surrounding his fleet. "Our pride died when we underestimated these humans. Our honor will be in keeping our species alive long enough to learn from this mistake." The data transmission began immediately. Star charts, weapons specifications, defensive protocols, military installations, political alliances, everything the Veltari knew about their region of space flowed to the human fleet. Admiral Dong-yun monitored the incoming intelligence with satisfaction. The aliens were providing information that would give humanity a significant advantage in future conflicts. But more importantly, they were accepting their new role as subjects rather than conquerors. "Signal Task Force Retribution," he ordered. "Stand down from attack position but maintain surveillance of the target system. The aliens have chosen compliance over extinction." The battle was over, but the war had fundamentally changed the balance of power in the galaxy. Humanity had demonstrated that challenging Earth carried consequences that extended far beyond the original conflict. The Veltari would return home as messengers of human power, carrying word that would spread throughout the galaxy. Attacking humanity was not just dangerous, it was potentially fatal to entire civilizations. Supreme Admiral Kale's complete surrender came through the quantum communication system exactly 5 hours and 37 minutes after the human ultimatum. The data package was massive, containing everything the Veltari knew about their region of space and the species within it. Director Kyung-ho processed the alien intelligence in the secure laboratories beneath Earth's surface. What he discovered was both fascinating and terrifying. The humans had not just faced a single aggressive species, they had unknowingly triggered fear throughout the entire local galactic region. "Admiral Dong-yun," he transmitted to the command station. "The Veltari intelligence reveals something significant. There is a coalition of 12 species called the Hegemony Alliance. They have been planning a coordinated attack on human space for the past 2 years." The revelation sent shockwaves through the human command structure. The Veltari invasion had not been an isolated incident. It was part of a larger plan to eliminate humanity before they could become a threat to the established galactic order. Which species are involved? General Taman asked from his bunker. The data shows the Korthak Empire, the Zeridian Confederacy, the Moloch hive mind, and 9 smaller civilizations, Kyung-ho replied. Combined, they command over 1,500 warships and control 43 star systems. President In-ha reviewed the intelligence reports in her secure office. The scope of the threat was staggering. Multiple alien civilizations had been working together to plan humanity's destruction. The Veltari attack had been intended as the opening move in a much larger conflict. How long before they attack? She asked. According to the Veltari intelligence, the main hegemony assault was scheduled to begin within 18 months, General Taman reported. They were waiting for the Veltari to soften our defenses before launching their own invasion. Admiral Mion maintained her position at the edge of the Veltari home system, her task force ready to carry out the destruction of their capital world if needed. But the aliens had complied fully with human demands, providing detailed intelligence about their former allies. Admiral, her tactical officer reported, we are detecting massive fleet movements throughout Veltari space. It appears they are recalling all their military forces to defensive positions around their core worlds. Mion nodded. The aliens had learned their lesson about challenging humanity. Now they were preparing to defend their own territory rather than attacking others. It was a wise decision that would keep their species alive. Captain Yunha led a diplomatic mission to establish monitoring stations throughout Veltari space. Her ships carried advanced surveillance equipment disguised as communication relays and scientific research platforms. First monitoring station activated, she reported to Earth Command. We now have real-time intelligence on all military activity in this sector. If the Veltari attempt to rebuild their offensive capabilities, we will know immediately. The monitoring stations served multiple purposes. They provided intelligence on alien activities, but they also served as rapid deployment, points for human forces if military action became necessary. Within hours, the stations could produce and deploy weapons platforms throughout Veltari space. Back on Earth, President In-ha prepared to address not just humanity, but the entire galaxy. The Interstellar Communication Network carried her message to every known civilization in their region of space. This is President In-ha of the Terran Republic, she began, her image transmitted across dozens of star systems. Recent events have brought to our attention that multiple species have been planning coordinated attacks against human space and human colonies. The message was being received by the same civilizations that had been planning humanity's destruction. They watched with growing concern as the human leader continued. Let me be absolutely clear about humanity's position. We do not seek conquest or domination over other species. We have no desire to interfere in the internal affairs of other civilizations, but we will not tolerate aggression against human space or human lives. Communications specialist Jae-hyun monitored the galactic response to the president's address. Reaction was swift and widespread. Within hours, 17 different species had sent diplomatic messages to Earth requesting non-aggression treaties. The Korthak Empire is requesting immediate diplomatic contact, he reported. They claim they were never part of any coalition against humanity. The Zeridian Confederacy is offering to share intelligence on other potentially hostile species, added another communications officer. They want to establish formal diplomatic relations. General Taman smiled grimly as he read the incoming diplomatic messages. The galaxy's reaction was exactly what humanity had hoped for. Fear was proving to be a more effective tool than actual warfare. "Signal all diplomatic missions," he ordered. "We will consider non-aggression treaties with any species that provides complete intelligence on the Hegemony Alliance. Cooperation will be rewarded. Continued hostility will be eliminated." The message was clear and effective. Species that had been planning to attack humanity were now competing to provide information about their former allies. The Hegemony Alliance was falling apart as its members chose survival over conquest. Intelligence Officer Wu Jin compiled the incoming data from various alien sources. "The coalition is dissolving rapidly," he reported. 3 former members have formally withdrawn from the alliance. 5 others are requesting to become human protectorates. The speed of the political realignment was remarkable. In less than a week, humanity had gone from facing a 12-species coalition to receiving requests for protection from former enemies. Admiral Mion received new orders from Earth Command. "Proceed to the Korthak home system, establish a monitoring presence and evaluate their military capabilities. If they pose a continued threat, you are authorized to demonstrate human resolve." The Korthak Empire had been one of the largest members of the Hegemony Alliance. Their decision to seek diplomatic contact with humanity was encouraging, but verification of their intentions was necessary. "Task Force Retribution, departing for Korthak space," Admiral Mion transmitted. "Estimated arrival in 48 hours. Director Kyung-ho reported on the expansion of the Guardian network beyond the Sol system. "We now have active platforms in 23 star systems along our borders. Each installation can manufacture additional defensive units and serve as a staging area for rapid response forces." The network was growing exponentially. Every human colony, every trade route, every strategic position was being protected by weapons platforms that could respond to threats within minutes of detection. President Inha concluded her galactic address with a statement that would become legendary throughout their region of space. "Humanity offers friendship to those who approach us in peace. We offer trade and cooperation to those who respect our sovereignty. But to those who threaten our people or our worlds, we offer only one guarantee. You will face consequences that extend far beyond your ability to imagine or endure." The president's words were broadcast and rebroadcast throughout the galaxy. Within days, they had become part of the standard diplomatic protocols used by multiple species when discussing humanity. Captain Yunha reported from her monitoring station in Veltari space. "Long-range sensors detect the dissolution of the main Hegemony fleet. Ships are returning to their home systems. The coordinated threat appears to have ended." The intelligence was confirmed by multiple sources. The alien coalition that had planned humanity's destruction was abandoning their plans and seeking individual diplomatic solutions. Fear of human retaliation had accomplished what years of negotiation might not have achieved. But humanity was not satisfied with simply ending the immediate threat. The galaxy needed to understand that attacking Earth carried permanent consequences. Admiral Dongyun received orders to begin the next phase of human expansion. "Operation Frontier Guard is now active. Establish rapid response forces throughout the local sector. Any future threats will be met with immediate and overwhelming force." The message was spreading throughout the galaxy. Humanity was no longer a minor species to be ignored or conquered. They had become a regional power that demanded respect and commanded fear. The price of aggression against humanity had been demonstrated in terms that every civilization could understand. The galaxy was learning a new rule of survival. You do not threaten Earth unless you are prepared to face the consequences. 6 months after the defeat of the Veltari invasion fleet, Ambassador Minji stood on the observation deck of humanity's first interstellar embassy. The station orbited Nexus Prime, a neutral world that served as a diplomatic meeting place for dozens of species. Through the transparent walls, she could see ships from across the galaxy arriving for trade negotiations and diplomatic meetings. Many of those ships carried delegations seeking audiences with humanity. The balance of power in this region of space had shifted dramatically, and every major civilization wanted to understand their new position relative to Earth. "Ambassador," her aide reported, "the Crystalline Collective has requested a formal meeting to discuss resource-sharing agreements. They're offering exclusive mining rights to rare mineral deposits in exchange for human protection." Minji nodded as she reviewed the request. The Crystalline Collective controlled 17 star systems rich in materials that human technology required. 6 months ago, they had been completely neutral in galactic affairs. Now they were actively seeking human protection. "Schedule the meeting for tomorrow," she decided, "and prepare briefing materials on their military capabilities. We need to understand what threats they face that would make them seek our protection." The transformation of galactic politics had been swift and complete. Species that had once considered humanity a minor threat now competed for favorable relationships with Earth. The demonstration of human military capabilities had created a new reality that no one could ignore. Admiral Dong-Yun supervised the expansion of the Guardian network from his new command station in the Alpha Centauri system. The defensive platforms that had proven so effective against the Veltari were now being deployed throughout human space and beyond. "Status report on the outer perimeter installations," he requested. Engineering Officer Heijin pulled up the current deployment statistics. "We now have active platforms in 57 star systems. Each primary installation is producing an average of 75 defensive units per day. Total network coverage extends over 200 light-years from Earth." The numbers were staggering. What had begun as a defensive measure for the Sol system had evolved into a military network that spanned a significant portion of the local galactic region. Any hostile force approaching human space would face thousands of weapons platforms before they could threaten a single human colony. "What about the self-replication capabilities?" Admiral Dong-Hyun asked. Chief Scientist Bora joined the briefing via quantum communication from her laboratory on Earth. "The platforms can now replicate themselves using raw materials from any stellar system. Growth rate is exponential. Each platform can produce 3 copies of itself within a standard month if sufficient materials are available." The implications were profound. Humanity's defensive capability was growing automatically, without requiring active human involvement. Every asteroid, every piece of space debris, every unused planet was potential raw material for additional weapons platforms. Admiral Mion reported from her patrol of the former Hegemony Alliance territory. Intelligence Officer Wu Jin has confirmed the permanent dissolution of the hostile coalition. The Moloch hive mind has formally requested to become a human protectorate. The Zeridian Confederacy is offering to serve as intermediaries for diplomatic contact with species beyond our current sphere of influence. The speed with which former enemies had become supplicants was remarkable. 3 of the most powerful civilizations in the region were now actively seeking human favor rather than plotting human destruction. Captain Yuna, now promoted to Admiral, commanded the newly formed Frontier Guard. Her rapid response fleets patrolled the expanded human sphere of influence, serving as visible reminders of Earth's military capabilities. "Admiral," her tactical officer reported during a routine patrol, "we are detecting an unauthorized probe approaching the outer boundary of human space. Configuration unknown, but it appears to be from beyond our current intelligence network." Admiral Una studied the sensor data. The probe was small and appeared to be on a reconnaissance mission. It was exactly the kind of intrusion that the Frontier Guard had been created to handle. "Signal the probe," she ordered. Standard warning protocol. The transmission was broadcast on all known frequencies. "You are approaching human territory. Identify yourself immediately or turn back. No unauthorized vessels are permitted in human space." The probe immediately reversed course and accelerated away from the boundary. No response was transmitted, but the message was clear. Whoever had sent it had received the warning and chosen to comply rather than test human resolve. "Another species learning the rules," Admiral Una commented to her crew. "Signal Earth Command. Report successful boundary enforcement. Unknown probe retreated upon warning." Director Kyung-ho monitored the expanding network from his research facility. The Guardian platforms had evolved far beyond their original defensive purpose. They now served as manufacturing centers, communication relays, and rapid deployment systems for human forces. "Current production capacity?" he asked his engineering team. "Network-wide, we are producing approximately 4,000 new defensive units per standard day," came the reply. "But more importantly, we are now manufacturing exploration platforms that can extend our surveillance and communication capabilities to previously unknown regions of space." Humanity was not just defending its current territory, it was actively expanding its ability to monitor and respond to threats across an ever-widening area of space. The network was becoming a form of technological life that grew and adapted. Independently, President Inha received daily briefings on the changing galactic situation. The transformation had exceeded even the most optimistic projections. Humanity had gone from being a target for conquest to being the dominant power in their region of space. "Status of diplomatic relations?" she asked during her morning briefing. 43 species have now established formal diplomatic contact, reported her foreign minister. 27 have signed non-aggression treaties, 15 have requested protection agreements, 8 have offered to serve as client states. The numbers represented a complete reversal of the galactic balance. Species that had once planned humanity's destruction were now competing to serve human interests. What about trade relationships? Expanding rapidly. Human technology, particularly our defensive systems, is in high demand. We are receiving offers for exclusive resource access, scientific cooperation, and territorial concessions. President Inha reviewed the reports with satisfaction. Humanity had achieved security not through conquest, but through the demonstration of overwhelming defensive capability. They had made it clear that attacking Earth was not just difficult, it was potentially fatal to entire civilizations. Communications specialist Jae-hyun reported the latest development. Long-range sensors have detected what appears to be another probe at the edge of our surveillance network. This one is maintaining distance and broadcasting identification codes. "Origin?" President Inha asked. "Unknown configuration, but the transmission includes mathematical constants and scientific data. It appears to be an attempt at peaceful first contact rather than reconnaissance." This was the pattern that had emerged throughout the galaxy. New species approaching human space were careful to announce their peaceful intentions rather than risk being mistaken for hostile forces. "Respond with standard first contact protocols," the president ordered. "Invite them to establish formal communication through our embassy at Nexus Prime." The final piece of the new galactic order fell into place when Director Kyung-ho reported on the latest technological development. "The Guardian network has achieved autonomous expansion capability," he announced. The platforms are now capable of identifying potentially hostile activities and responding without human oversight. The system can detect, analyze, and neutralize threats faster than any biological intelligence could manage. President Inha understood the implications. Humanity had created a defensive system that functioned independently of human control. It would continue to grow and protect human interests even if something happened to Earth itself. The transformation was complete. The galaxy had learned the fundamental rule of the new order. You do not threaten humanity unless you are prepared to face consequences that extend far beyond your ability to comprehend or survive. As President Inha concluded her address to the Terran Assembly, she reflected on how much had changed since that first Veltari attack. "We did not seek to become a galactic power," she said to the assembled representatives. "We sought only to protect our home and our people. But the galaxy has learned that those who threaten Earth do not return to tell others of their defeat, because they do not return at all." The final scene of humanity's rise to galactic prominence played out in deep space, where Director Kyung-ho monitored the network sensors as another alien probe approached the edge of human territory. The probe quickly reversed course upon detecting the automated warning beacon. The message that played across all frequencies had become legendary throughout the galaxy, repeated by species across dozens of star systems as a warning to their own people. "You are approaching human territory. Turn back now. No one enters human space uninvited, unless they don't plan to come back." The galaxy had learned to listen. The Phi